Hello everyone. This chapter is on environmental health, and just like the rest of the chapters in this book, quite interesting. It's going to talk about health, not only body health, but we're talking also about the environmental, health. Well, we'll just begin and we'll see. As you can see, all sorts of things go out into our environment and cause not only problems to human and other organismic health, but the environment itself is being bombarded with all sorts of toxins and radiation and pollution to cause our environment itself to be unhealthy. So this chapter is basically taking a look at these types of things and what kind of things are wreaking havoc on our environment. Disease, whether they're viruses or whether they're brought on by protozoan, parasites, bacterial infections. Disease is a big factor in thousands and thousands of deaths a year. Just going over a few of these organisms, read through your chapter and learn a little bit about the different types of pathogens, disease-causing organisms. Outbreaks, we can see here just some different outbreaks of different diseases. Some of these carried by rodents, some of these carried by vegetables, viruses carried by the mosquito. Okay, all sorts of things around here in America and in other areas of the world. But we see that we do have the capability now with all of our travel and our close proximity to each other when we're traveling in the airlines, how we can move some of these viruses and bacterial diseases throughout the world. It's not very difficult anymore to move these diseases throughout the world. Just an example of the spread of a virus. Just some more information about what different pathogens do to different organisms. Now, we're not the only ones that are hit with outbreaks of disease. Humans are not the only ones. Animals, other animals, whole flocks of birds, fish get lesions and die. Rabbits get viruses and the whole, rabbit population dies off. Disease can hit any type of organism. Different things are happening in our world today where we are using antibiotics whimsically, and these antibiotics then too many of them are being used, and causes of resistance has increased. And this happens as well in the use of pesticides and herbicides. We see that plants are becoming resistant to specific herbicides. We see that insects that we spray for. We spray pesticide. These insects are becoming resistant, and we just have to keep changing up the chemicals, and we're putting these into our environment, and more toxins go in, and it's not a good picture. Okay, here's an example of how microbes acquire resistance, and I'm just going to let you read through that and read through some of this toxicology. Environmental toxicology deals with interactions, transformation, fate, and effects of toxins in the biosphere. So, very interesting topic there, because we do have a lot of mining and other types of factories going on, and these factories and mines, and they have their waste, they have their hazardous substances they're putting out there, and adding toxins to the environment. This is something that's not that old. Sick building syndrome. A lot of the furniture we get, and the carpeting and the paint, all of these have chemicals in them, and some people are highly sensitive to all of these types of chemicals, and it causes them illness. Other types of illnesses can be caused by breathing in mold and mildew. These fungal spores get in your lungs and cause terrible, terrible problems with the person's breathing, and just all sorts of other health concerns for people. So all sorts of things, different types of what specific classes these poisons are in. You can read through those. A lot of things are affecting our levels of our hormones, and how they're changing the hormones, and specifically hitting the reproductive organs in men and in women. So this is not something that we should take lightly. This is something that our environmental health is very important. And here's our indicator. Here's our indicator species. It will tell us, this frog, it will tell us literally, if we have large frog kill, it probably is indicative of a chemical spill in that body of water. So it's very, very important that we take care of the chemicals that we are putting out into the environment. Many of them don't decompose and just sit around for hundreds of years, especially these. The water soluble, simply they dissolve in water, and then other chemicals are fat soluble. So just how they mix. Just an overview of how we can be exposed to these types of unhealthy chemicals. Bioaccumulation and biomagnification, very important. Simply the microorganisms and the smaller zooplankton and phytoplankton, they pick up these chemicals in small amounts. So these organisms, maybe down the line it's going to affect them, but immediately it won't affect them. These organisms are eaten. It's a food chain, people. These organisms are eaten by the fish, the small fish. The small fish accumulate, a whole bunch of these in their fat, and then these fish smaller fish are eaten by a bigger fish, and then these fish eat that much more, and all this that was accumulated in the small fish is now, increasing in the bigger fish, and then even the bigger fish are eating more, and then they get just more amounts of the chemicals, and then the bird, the osprey, the raptor that feeds on these organisms, it magnifies in that predator, the top carnivore, and eventually there's too much toxin, and then we start seeing the effects of the poison or the toxin. And whether it's the soft shells that happened with the DDT, or whether it's basically they become sterile and they can't breed anymore. And then we see a collapse of that organism. So this is a very important topic. You should review it and read it and learn about it. Okay. I'll let you read through all of this. How can we minimize the effects of toxins? How do you measure toxicity? Learning about that. Animal testing. Well, usually when they do tests on different chemicals, they take either rabbits or mice or rats, and they give that organism the chemical in specific doses. And usually when 50% of the population die, that's called the LD50, and then that's like the lethal dose. So that's what they go by. There's the lethal dose, see? So, and this continues to talk about toxins and effects of toxins, and sometimes we learn about the toxicity of chemicals long after they are put out into the environment. There's our how much risk is acceptable. Okay. Establishing public policy risk. That's our risk management. And basically that's the chapter. So read through the material, like I say always, and focus on some of those areas that I kind of delved into a bit. And have a nice day.